So I decided to get back to this project real quick. I didn't think I would, but someone's been asking some questions about it, and I just want to answer some, look into getting some of these things implemented so it's more functional. So this series, I actually started back in 2013, and I got up to part 15. It's kind of a long series. Each part is about 10 to 15 minutes, and this wasn't really meant for you to just like go through the whole series and then have a finished, like, complete project. It's kind of to give you the building blocks of how you go about doing certain things, and so I just want to add a little bit onto my previous this project, and I have it up on GitHub also. I have each part in a certain folder. And I actually converted this into an Android Studio project. So I'm using Android Studio now instead of Eclipse. So there are a few things that this person was asking about. One was dragging the squares, like the grid, whenever you're dragging on the home screen. And then saving items that are moved, and then removing items. And I'll show you what that's talking about. So here's the app. It was a simple app, so it has an app drawer. You can long press on an app and it puts it onto the home screen, and then you can move it. Now notice how whenever I first added it to home screen, it was added up here, and I'll add another one too so you can see. So, and then this one was added right here. Now if I went out of this app and then back into it, which it's called Basic Launcher. So they were saved wherever they were added first, and so it didn't save whenever I was dragging. And so that's one thing I wanted to do. I actually want to do that first before I get into anything else. I think that's the best place to start. In addition to that, shortcuts aren't saved either, so that's something that needs to be done as well. So this might be a little out of order, but for the shortcuts, well, for the apps we have a serializable to hold all of our apps, and we're using a pack. Now for shortcuts, well, it's a little different. We could add an array, another list inside of app serializable data, or we could make a shortcut serializable data. For loading purposes, I think we should have separate ones. So we'll create a new class, and then this will be shortcut serializable. Okay, and this will be about like the same thing as the other one, serializable, and we can add. See, this one doesn't. In Eclipse, it would have you add add one of these, a serializable ID or UID. So might as well be consistent. Make this a little different. 9 here. Okay. And it had an array of packs, so I'm not sure if we're using packs for shortcuts. It's been so long. Let's look. So the main activity, we have something where we can select shortcut, starts for result, and then in the result we have a create shortcut. And what is this doing? So in the create shortcut, we're simply adding it. Okay, we're adding it onto the home screen, the view, and we're adding a long click listener for dragging and a shortcut listener for the clicks. So let's look at this shortcut click listener. How is it getting the data? Okay, so it's just getting the data through the tag. So it's saving an intent, and that's not a bad idea. Okay, so we're setting tag to the shortcut intent, and instead of packs, and having like a component name and just a normal package name, we can use an intent. We need to save the icon, and we need to save a label. So instead of pack, let's look at what pack looks like anyways. So inside of pack, we do a caching icon. Okay. So we're going to do something very similar to this class. So I'm actually just going to copy this class. We're going to paste it, and I'll name this as shortcut pack. Okay. So we have shortcut pack here. Let's change the serializable ID. The icon can stay the same. The name can be, name and label. We're changing this to intent. But I don't think intent is serializable. So I think what I'm going to do instead of saving the intent, since I don't think it's serializable, we can use URI as a string. So string URI. And I think we can keep the label, keep X and Y. Icon location we can keep. Instead of cached apps, we can do cached shortcuts. Okay, and then we can do the same thing down here, because that's just making the directories if it doesn't exist. Now in this we're doing package name plus name. I think we can just do the URI in this, even though it's going to be a long file. I think it'll be fine. A long file name. This is looking good. In our shortcut serializable, we'll need to add an array of shortcut packs. So just like we have app serializable with this list of packs, we'll have a list of shortcut packs. Okay. Okay. So we have the list of shortcut packs inside of the serializable. Now, inside of our serializable tools, another serialize and load serialize, we'll just copy these two methods, and we'll change this to serialize shortcut data and load serialized shortcut data. The output location, where we saved it as data in the other method, so we can change that to shortcut data. And the same thing with retrieving the shortcut data. Okay. So now we have methods for loading and serializing shortcut data. Now we got to actually save it whenever we add to the home screen. So we have create shortcut method. That's where we're going to put it in. And let's see how we did it with adding apps, because we had draw our long click listener. Yeah, so here's what we do whenever adding the apps. We grab the serializable data. If it's null, we create a new object. If apps are null, we create a new array list, which technically we don't have to since app serializable data, because we already say new array list. Then you set the X and Y location, whether it's landscape or not, which we're not doing anything with that at the moment. And you cache it. Okay, so you do all this stuff. This is about the same thing that we're doing. So I'm going to copy all the serializable stuff, and we're going to make it work for the shortcut. So when we're adding the shortcut, alright, create shortcut. Alright, so here's where we're adding the view. After we add it, we can save the shortcut. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to change this to shortcut serializable data. Serialization tool.load serialized shortcut data. If object data is null, we create a new shortcut serializable data. If the apps are null, then we create a new array list, which, as I mentioned, this isn't really necessary, but just in case it's changed, we can still do that. So it's a shortcut pack array list. And for pack to add, okay, so instead of pack, it's a shortcut pack. And this pack to add, we have to say it to be a new shortcut pack. So then we set X and Y. X we can do, so it looks like by default we're just putting it at 100. So let's make those, well, yeah, so if this is ever changed in the future, we can just take that LP.left margin right here and LP.top margin. It looks like we didn't finish serialization tool for this. Instead of app serializable data, we're loading the shortcut serializable data. So that's where we messed up here. If it's the instance of that, then we return that. So now we're good here. Okay, so we're setting the left margin, top margin, if it's landscape or not. We can't cache icon yet because we need to add the icon itself. And then we're adding to the array list. And then we're serializing shortcut data. And this also needs to be changed to shortcut serializable data. Pack to add dot URI. I believe for this we can just take the intent up here, shortcut intent dot to URI, and I think we can just pass in 0 for the flags. Okay, okay, so now we have pack to add dot, not URI, dot label equals shortcut label. We defined that earlier up there. Pack to add dot icon. So it's not going to let you just do icon like that because it's a drawable instead of or because it's a bitmap instead of a drawable. Inside of our shortcut pack, we could just change this to a bitmap, and then we'll change this part out to icon dot compress. And for this part, it looks like we can actually remove all of this except for get cached icon. We have an add to home. This is something we're going to have to modify later on. Actually, we can move everything that we put inside of here into that. Really, instead of creating all the views and stuff in here, we can do it inside of the actual shortcut pack. So that's actually what we should do. So the serializable stuff, this is about done. And I'm gonna just move this up a little bit. Let me just move it up here real quick. I know we don't have to lay out parameters. Pack to add dot cache. Okay, I forgot this part. Okay. So then change this to pack to add dot x. We can change this to 100, 100 just like it was down here. Okay. That's where instead of doing all this stuff, we'll call pack to add dot add to home. Okay. So let's move all the layout parameter stuff, all the view stuff into add to home instead of inside of shortcut pack. So I'm gonna move it up to the top here real quick, just give some space. We'll have M context right here. First we need to get the icon, so if icon equals null, because we'll be using this method later, so we'll need to add that. Okay, so for the shortcut label, we just changed that to just label. Shortcut click listener, add M context, set tag. Now this is where we convert the URI into an intent. So intent dot parse URI. We pass in we just called it URI. Comma 0. And right, so it has an exception. So surround that with try catch. Really, if it catches that, it probably just shouldn't even add it to the home screen. But we'll keep it there for now. So home view, that would be this one. Okay. Now we can remove all of that. Now it should save now whenever we add the shortcut to the home screen. We just need to do a few more things. And we don't need to cast this to an int. Okay, so add to home, we need to pass in some things. So I think the first is context. Home view. I think it's just that. Okay, so then it'll add to home and then it'll be serializing the shortcut. Let's make it so that whenever we open the app that it retrieves that saved data. Right now we're saving the data, but we're not using it. So we have an add apps to home, and this one is called as soon as the activity starts. So let's add an add shortcuts to home. Okay, and let's put it right next to this one. So I'm just going to copy this to add shortcuts to home. App serializable data, so that's shortcut. Serializable data equals serialization tool.load shortcut serializable data. If data is not null, that's right. Okay, so now it's going to go through all the shortcut packs and then say add to home for all of them. So let's try this. Okay, so add shortcut. Let's add a settings shortcut to the battery. And one more. Actually, no. And it's going to overlay. But that's okay. We'll do it anyways. app info. Okay, so there's two here. I'm gonna move this one down. Alright, so there's two shortcuts here. So they should have been saved. So we're gonna exit out and we're gonna open it up again. Okay, so it's saved app info and battery, but it didn't save the icon. So my guess is that the URI might be too long for it, or it might be a bad file name for it. They need to be different file names, and so sometimes what I do is use uuid dot random uuid dot toString. This will just give you a random little string of characters, about like 15 characters long or something like that. And so each time it creates the icon, that's how it's gonna save it. Let's try one more. Shortcut, we'll do a battery shortcut again. And then we'll exit out. We'll go back in. And you can see the icon saved right here and this one. But once again, it's not saving whenever I move the icons. So that's actually what I want to do next. So all these should be saved as soon as I drop them, and they're not. And so this shouldn't be too hard. Alright. So we have a drag. We have a touch listener so that we can do the dragging. This is app touch listener, so declaration. So what I am going to propose is that inside of app touch listener, we'll have a constructor. Okay, and then the first thing is we need to tell it whether this is a shortcut or an app, or just a normal app. So int type, and inside of here we'll have a final static int type underscore shortcut, and we'll have the same thing for type underscore app, just for a normal app. So shortcut we can be 1, app can be 0. App is more standard, so I wanted to make that 0. And I guess this should be public so we can access it from outside. So that's what we'll pass in for type. The next thing is, I think we should pass in, we need some way to identify which one it is in the serializable. So we could pass in like the UUID, which actually would be a good idea, but we'd have to change a few things. So I think that should be the way we identify which app is which. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, so how we just did this in Shortcut Pack, we created this UUID, this random UUID for the shortcut, and we're gonna save this string, UUID string, and this will be an identifier. That's just a comment. And then whenever we cache the icon, which is something that you do every time whenever you serialize it, we'll do UUID equals UUID.random UUID.toString. 1 second. Okay, let's change UUID because that's already something else. String UUID identifier. Alright, so there. ToString. Change this part to what we just created. Okay. So we can still save the icon location, but we'll just also have this. And we should do the same exact thing inside of the normal pack. So inside of pack, we can add a UUID identifier. And instead of package name plus name, we'll do the same exact thing. Equals UUID dot random UUID dot ToString. And remove this, change it to UUID identifier. And so inside of the touch listener, back to that. This is what I was wanting to do. We'll have the app touch listener, we'll have the type, and then we'll have a string for the UUID identifier. Alright, so this way, whenever we're moving the object, we can know how to save it. We can add those two things, int type, well, app type, I guess. Yeah, let's do it, app type. And then string UUID identifier. This dot app type equals type. This dot UUID identifier equals UUID identifier. Now that's what we have to pass in every time. Now this on touch, we set the layout parameters here. Whenever you move, and then when we do action up, this is where we're going to save that data. First, inside of pack, let's let it be known that this is the type app, and the identifier is the UUID identifier. We'll do the same exact thing inside of shortcut pack, except type shortcut. Type shortcut and UUID identifier. So now we have some way to identify it inside of app touch listener. Now let's just do a switch case for the app types. App type. So it's a switch inside of a switch. We don't do that very often. Case app is first. So this we can do switch case just in case we add another type later on. So type shortcut. So now we know we'll have serializable app serializable data, app data equals serialization tools dot load serializable data. And we'll do the same thing in the shortcut, except this will be shortcut serializable data. Let's just call this short data. Serialization tools dot load serializable shortcut data. And as always, we can just make sure it's not null, even though it shouldn't be null if it's already created. If it's not equal null, then we can do stuff with it. Okay. So if we can do something with it, then we can resave the location. So first thing, we use the identifier to find which one we're looking for. And I think the best thing to do would be create something inside of here to find some methods so that we can find using that identifier. So do public pack find pack, and then we use an identifier, UUID. Okay, so we got the string co. Okay, so now we're just gonna for pack p apps if p dot UUID identifier dot equals UID identifier, then we return p. That's the simple search method we're using. And say if it doesn't find it, we return null. We'll do the same exact thing inside of shortcut, serializable data. So let's just save this, change this to shortcut pack apps, returning p here, change this to shortcut pack. Alright, now we have those search methods. So app data dot find pack now we passed in this UUID identifier, so we use this. So that would be pack p equals that, and if it found it, it's not null. So if p is not equals null, and same thing for down here. Change this to short data. Shortcut pack. Now this is where we change the location and then we save it. So this shouldn't be too difficult. All we're going to do is p dot x equals and p dot y equals. P dot x, we have left margin, so we set it to left margin. P dot y, we set it to top margin. And down here too, it's a bit repetitive. There probably is a way to make this less repetitive so that we're not doing a bunch of duplicate code, but it's okay for now. Alright, now it actually should, after we save this, then it will be good. So now all we have to do is use serialization tools dot serialize data, and then the app data. Same thing down here. Serialization tools dot serialize shortcut data, short data. Now, hopefully this will be the fix. Now, since we have all this identifier stuff, we're gonna have to clear the data of this app. So right here we have Lucid Launcher. This is actually the app that I created. Okay, wait. We have Basic Launcher right here, App Info, Storage, Clear Data. And now let's run it on a blank slate. Calculator, let's first just start with apps, make sure it works. So you can see we're moving it wherever we want. It should be saving it. Let's add a Chrome here, like a little triangle. Now we're going to go out of the app, go back into the app. And here you go, it's saved it. Let's try it with shortcuts. We can add our settings shortcut, battery, move, one more, add shortcut, settings shortcut, display, move it down here, press back, open it up again. It's not saving the shortcut location. So let's figure that out real quick. Okay, so what we did wrong is instead of shortcut pack, we have lp.left margin equals 100 and top margin equals 100. So that's hard coded in. Change this to just X and Y, and we should be good. So now let's test this out, run it. Now you can see they're in different locations. And let's put them in a little order like this. Go back out, go back in. And there you go. It's saving the location. Good. So I think I'm going to leave it at this for now. I'll come back and try to answer those other questions in a later video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.